just because his childhood friend claimed he wouldn't live past a month. My girlfriend unilaterally canceled the wedding I had been anticipating for 6 years. She even packed up all my belongings from her villa and tossed them out, just to make room for him. Simon, Tom once saved my life. His only wish before he dies is to have me by his side. You just need to move out for a while. Once Tom's affairs are settled, we'll get married immediately. Don't worry, you're the only one I see as my husband. Please be understanding and give him some space, okay? I didn't reply. She had already arranged transport and pretty much forced me to leave. But what she didn't know was that I was the one who saved her life, not Tom. And if I don't marry her within a month, the system will whisk me away from this world forever, meaning I'll disappear from her life. My mind was blank as I watched Nina shove my things into a suitcase. It wasn't until she erased every trace of me from her home that the woman, who once considered me her beloved, finally noticed me. She spoke with a tone of guilt and affection. Simon, it's only a month apart. Once Tom's wish is fulfilled, I'll bring you back. Rest assured, nothing will happen between him and me. You're the only one I've chosen as my husband, and that won't ever change. Her assurance didn't ripple my heart. Instead, I felt oddly calm. She had given me such promises before. Yet, her overly intimate actions with Tom never ceased, despite my jealousy, anger, or arguments with her. All I got were these seemingly heartfelt but hollow reassurances. Gradually, I became numb to it, letting Tom move into my place and flaunt it in front of me, though this was a first. But she didn't know Tom's heroic story was a lie. I was the one who saved her back then. The system's rules kept me from explaining. But had Nina just asked a bit more, she would have learned the truth. Yet she chose to believe Tom. That was when I understood. The truth, it didn't matter. The real answer was her lack of love. Simon, I've arranged your new place to your liking. The car to take you there is already waiting downstairs. Let's head down together, okay? Nina looked at me gently, but there was urgency and impatience in her eyes. Okay, I replied, picking up the suitcase she packed for me. The suitcase was heavy. Nina made sure nothing of mine was left behind. From the mattress I slept on to my contact lens case. She packed it all away so Tom wouldn't feel upset seeing them. Realizing this, I felt no attachment and just turned to leave. Nina hesitated with a complicated expression, then quickly followed. Let me handle your suitcase. Without asking, she took it from me, her eyes seeking out my reaction. I didn't resist, just replied politely, thanks. Nina's expression grew even more remorseful. Throughout the drive, she seemed like she wanted to talk several times but never did. Her expression was complicated. Once we got downstairs, she reminded me, if you need anything from there, just text me, and I'll send it over. You can also call me if you miss me. I calmly cut her off. Got it. I won't disturb you too. Nina paused, hurriedly explaining. No, that's not what I meant. I gave a faint smile, finishing her excuse. I know you're just concerned about me. Hearing this, guilt deepened in Nina's eyes. She softly said, Simon, I love you, you know that, right? I softly interrupted. Right, I have to go now. Goodbye. As I gestured for her to put the suitcase in the trunk, the sound of dress shoes clacking on cobblestones rose behind me, laden with an overwhelming scent of cologne. Tom approached, looking sharp in a designer suit, a cheerful smile on his face as he casually linked his arm with Nina's. Nina, I'm here. As he approached, he pretended to see me for the first time, looked surprised, and exclaimed, Simon, you're still here? Guess I came too early. Perfect timing. I wanted to thank you for allowing Nina to spend my last month with me. Don't be deceived by my healthy appearance. The doctor says I'm injured internally. Simon, don't be upset. Nina told me you're the love of her life, and she just needs you to relocate for a short month. His words of thanks carried a smug undertone. Nina didn't look happy. She frowned and interrupted. All right, Tom. Go inside first. I need a word with Simon. She casually wrapped an arm around my shoulders, unambiguously asserting her territory. Tom, however, cast a disdainful glance at me and sighed with faux regret. All right then, I'll leave you two to talk. I won't intrude. But as he started to step away, he suddenly turned back with a smirk. Oh, and Simon, while I'm here, is it all right if I stay in your room? I hadn't answered before Nina frowned at Tom. We have plenty of guest rooms. Is there nowhere else for you? Don't mess around. Simon's room is off limits. Tom's face fell. Looking crestfallen, he pitifully replied, All right, Nina. I guess someone about to die doesn't deserve such a nice big room like Simon's. I'd settle for the basement, as long as you're there with me. Those words triggered Nina's sympathy again. Her tone softened involuntarily. Tom, that's not what... She stopped as she noticed me and quietly said, Let's talk about this later. Just head inside for now. Tom finally left without further comment, shooting me a challenging and triumphal look as he went. Both he and I understood Nina's non-committal answer was basically a yes. Once he was out of sight, Nina turned to me with deep emotion. I'm so sorry, Simon. Today I didn't manage my timing well. I know how you feel about seeing Tom. But don't worry, a month will pass quickly, and you can forget all about this. Okay? I replied with only a slight nod, preparing to get into the car. As I turned away, Nina's eyes suddenly reddened as she grabbed my hand. Simon, I'm sorry you have to go through this. I simply responded, It's fine. Nina stared intently into my eyes. It felt like the calmer I acted, the more torn up I was inside. After a few seconds, she seemed to make a decision. In a gentle voice, she said, Simon, I'll take you there, spend a bit more time with you. I shook my head, no need. Tom might look for you later. Nina looked even guiltier. She softly replied, It's okay. I can be with him a bit later. But the next second, her phone rang. Even though she didn't put it on speaker, I could clearly hear Tom. Nina, I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Can you come up and be with me? As expected, Nina looked hesitant. She furrowed her brows, glancing at me with a troubled look. Before she could say anything, I spoke for her. You should stay and take care of Tom, I'll be fine. With that, I got straight into the car. As the car started, a familiar system voice rang in my head. Host, you are now separated from Nina. If you can't complete the wedding with Nina within a month, you will be forcibly removed from this world. I'm a strategist. 6 years ago, I came here with the task of maxing out Nina's affection and marrying her. Luckily, Nina and I clicked instantly and were quickly together. We planned to marry at the end of the month, but things took a turn. If I insisted on Nina staying to complete the wedding, it wasn't impossible, but it felt pointless. When I arrived at the villa Nina had arranged for me, there were already 2 maids waiting. The place was tidy, adorned with my favorite gladioli, and the bedroom had freshly bought and dried linens. This indicated Nina had long planned for me to move out. But today was the day she finally mentioned it. After washing up, I was ready to rest, but a message from Tom popped up, a close-up selfie, which he deleted almost instantly. Even so, I could tell the photo's background was clearly my bedroom. The wall originally had a photo of Nina and me together, but it had been intentionally replaced with a portrait of Tom. I couldn't help but recall when Nina begged me to move in with her. She claimed that as long as she was around, there'd be a room for me in her place. Back then, she loved me fiercely. Whether it was house renovations or daily decor, she always catered to my tastes. Whenever I asked for her opinion, she'd sweetly say, Simon is the man of the house. I should listen to the man of the house. But all good things eventually change. The next morning, a call from the photo studio woke me up. They wanted me to pick up couple photos we took last week. They had called Nina, but she didn't answer. I figured Nina and Tom are in their rare moments of alone time. Having her fetch our photos seemed inappropriate, so I decided to pick them up myself. Yet, stepping into the studio, I saw Nina in a bridal gown emerging from the fitting room. Tom was in a matching suit, looking every bit like a charming prince. In an infatuated voice, he exclaimed, Nina, you're too beautiful. I didn't think I'd see you in a wedding dress before I die. It's worth it. Tom, don't keep bringing that up. Let's enjoy the days we have left. Okay? If you like it, I'll keep it and try a few more for you. Yeah. Tom's grin was wide. Nearby, a shop assistant whispered, Wait, Isn't Nina's boyfriend Simon? Tom sneered, of course not. They broke up. I'm Nina's official boyfriend now. Hearing this, Nina's brows furrowed slightly, but she didn't refute. The assistant quickly apologized. Sorry. This morning, the manager told me to contact Nina for the photos, but ended up arranging with Simon. I should have realized, all my fault. Nina's face changed. About to ask questions, she met eyes with me at the door. Her eyes filled with panic. Simon. I turned and left. Nina chased after, urgently explaining, Simon, don't misunderstand. I brought Tom for wedding photos to fulfill his dying wish. Nothing else. I was silent, making her more anxious. He said we broke up, and I didn't clarify because there's no need to with strangers. You know, I hate explaining. Calmly, I observed her panic but said nothing. Yet Nina looked at me guiltily and pleadingly. Simon, don't be like this. If you're upset, just say it. Bottling it up isn't good for you. It'll hurt me. I shook my head. I'm not upset, just don't want to bother you too. Nina grew more guilt-ridden, her eyes filled with concern. She tried to change the topic. Let's not talk about this. How was your first night there? Are you adjusting okay? Are the staff doing their job well? Should I send the chef over? No need, I replied coolly. At that moment, an assistant came with our photos. Simon, here are the photos. Nina instinctively took them, then hesitated for a moment, before handing them to me. Simon, take these home. I worry Tom might. It's fine. I get it. I smiled, taking the photos and walked away, unaffected by her guilty, longing gaze. After leaving the studio, I roamed aimlessly. Come noon, I found myself at a restaurant Nina and I used to love. She used to try recreating the dishes for me. But since Tom came around, she stopped joining me here as much. I had just sat and ordered when I saw Nina, hand in hand with Tom, walking in. They looked like a couple in love, inseparable. Not wanting to cross paths, I picked a spot in the corner. Yet Tom saw me right away, pointing and shouting, Simon, are you stalking us again? The wedding photo session earlier might have been a coincidence, but you following us here is unnecessary. He accused me with a pained face, eyes red as if deeply wronged. I know you love Nina, but do you really have to compete with a dying man? Wouldn't you be happy if I just dropped dead now? I couldn't help frowning, thinking how dramatic Tom was. Nina's gaze was complex, but she still consoled Tom. Don't, Tom. Go have a seat. Tom, acting deeply hurt, let tears flow. Nina, if Simon can't accept me, just say the word, and I'll vanish from this world. He doesn't need to provoke me like this. He clutched his chest, acting breathless. Nina panicked, helping him sit, soothing him softly. Tom, calm down, have some water. Then my order arrived. But witnessing this spectacle, my appetite was gone. Turning to leave, Nina suddenly intercepted me, her voice laden with emotions. Simon, I know the pain you're going through, but I hope you can understand me. Tom can't handle any more stress. Just 1 month, okay? Please don't make a fuss. I found it absurd, yet I nodded without explaining much. Nina glanced at me again, her eyes showing a hint of pity as her tone softened. Simon, no matter what happens with Tom and me, it's all just a show. I love only you. You're my future husband, and I swear, I'll marry no one else but you. Please don't overthink it. It hurts me too. I nodded again. Nina seemed to want to say more, but Tom called her, and I finally got the chance to leave. In the days that followed, I tried to avoid any kind of encounter with them. So I stayed home, tending to flowers and feeding fish. I wanted to spend my last days peacefully. During this time, Nina rarely contacted me. Once in a while, she'd send a message, checking in on my health and telling me to wait for her. Tom, on the other hand, sent photos of him and Nina every few days, not wanting me to miss them. He'd always accompany the photos with a taunt. Simon, are you eating and sleeping well? Because having your girl here, it must be tough for you. I didn't respond to his petty provocations. As the 1-month deadline neared, the system kept reminding me, Host, if you fail to complete the wedding by the deadline, you'll be forcibly removed from this world. Please act quickly. I ignored it multiple times, and the system fell silent. Soon, the last evening arrived, and I unexpectedly got a call from Nina. She sounded excited and urgent. "Simon, great news. Tom's illness was a misdiagnosis. He's not going to die. I'll come to get you now, let's go home. I'm sorry for this month. Let me make it up to you. I'll see you in half an hour at most." After hanging up, I went to the third-floor window, calmly gazing at the night sky. I thought I'd leave quietly this time, but unexpectedly, I would see Nina one last time. It's a fitting end. Yet, as time ticked away, Nina never returned. Midnight came and festivities erupted outside. From the window, I saw fireworks spell out the words, "Tom, I love you." I vaguely heard the whole city filled with the sound of fireworks. Then, a loud alarm rang in my head. "Host, end your current body's life quickly. You're about to leave this world." When the next firework burst, I stepped forward and jumped from the window without hesitation. With a loud crash, warm blood splattered everywhere. Alarmed by the noise, the servants rushed over, trembling as they called Nina. "Come back. Sir is hurt." In a daze, I heard Tom's dismissive voice on Nina's line. "Simon, enough with the theatrics. You couldn't wait for Nina to pick you up and have the servants lie." Before he could finish, Nina took over the call, speaking gently. "Simon, I'm sorry. I was busy helping Tom move out and couldn't fetch you sooner. Please don't scare me by saying such things." "Sir," the servants' words were cut short as the call ended. Even seeing the situation, they called an ambulance. Time slowly ticked by. I lay motionless on the ground, almost hearing the sound of blood draining from my body, death creeping up on me. I wasn't afraid. My mind uncontrollably drifted to memories of happy times with Nina. We first met at a concert hall, performed a duet that left everyone in awe. We talked about life, philosophy, and found a deep connection. Our love was so deep, yet the scene faded quickly, leaving me standing alone. I thought I made a choice on my own, thinking I wouldn't cling to anything. Surprisingly, in my last moment, it was Nina's face I saw. Tick, tock. Host exit countdown. 3, 2, 1. A bright white light flashed before me. In my vision, Nina's car screeched to a halt in front of the villa. She hurriedly got out, bursting through the door, her face lit with joy as she called out, "Simon, I'm here to get you." She moved through the villa without finding me, jokingly calling upstairs, "Simon, don't play around. Come out. We're going home. I missed you this whole month. I know you did too." That's when a servant rushed in, face pale, in a panic. "Sir," he jumped off the building. "What are you saying?" Nina frowned, displeased with the absurdity. She didn't believe the servant until she noticed the bloodstain on their clothes, along with the unmistakable panic in their expression. Another servant rushed in, almost tripping, stuttering, Ma'am," causing Nina to panic upon sensing the truth. They led her to the backyard, where she stopped cold at the sight of the blood on the ground. She couldn't move forward anymore. "It can't be. Simon isn't that foolish." "Impossible," Nina murmured, frozen in place. Only when the servants urged her again did she slowly approach and see my lifeless body. Nina collapsed on sight, tears streaming, unable to react, as if frozen in time. It took minutes for her to respond to the servants' concern. Then she crumbled, shouting, "Simon, why? Why now? I was coming for you, just a little late. Why?" Her cries echoed, as bloodshot eyes filled with despair. Usually having a compulsion for cleanliness, she was unaware of the blood covering her, lost in her sorrow. Fearing her cries might cause an incident, servants tried to console her. "Please, ma'am, this was unexpected." "What do you mean, unexpected? Explain what that means. I told you to watch over Simon for this month. Why didn't you stop him from jumping? Why?" Red-eyed, Nina raged. The servants turned pale, one whispering, "Sir jumped after seeing the fireworks for Mr. Tom. We were watching them, and he might have seen too." Speaking in hushed tones, they trailed off. Nina, shattered, clutched her chest, trembling. "Fireworks? My fireworks. I killed Simon. Collapsing into the soil, nails broke and bled without her noticing. Not until too late did the ambulance arrive. White coats arrived minutes later. We're sorry. Please prepare for the worst. My body had long been lifeless. Nothing could save me. Nina stopped breaking down into tears, like she'd lost all her strength, just staring blankly at my body. She was numb like a puppet. Watching her in despair and regret, I didn't feel touched or satisfied. I just wanted to move on quickly. That's when the system, which had been offline for a while, finally came back online. Host, we're very sorry, but the system has not matched you to a new game world yet. You'll have to stay for a day. Fine, I'll stay another day then. I didn't really feel strongly opposed to it, nor was I really looking forward to it. I was just curious how she, the woman I once truly loved, would handle my aftermath. That's when Tom pulled up. He waved at Nina with a big, confident grin. Nina, what are you doing here? I bet Simon was just trying to scare you. His little tricks wouldn't fool anyone else but someone as straightforward as you. Are you two fighting? Maybe you should leave him there to think about it for a month. Tom was joking around, getting closer as he spoke. But before he could reach my body, Nina sprang up and slapped him hard. Shut up. Stunned, Tom staggered back. Nina, you... Before he could finish, Nina grabbed his hair and dragged him to my body, delivering a swift kick. This is your idea of a little trick. Tom, open your eyes and take a good look. The kick knocked the wind out of him and he turned pale. Just as he was about to whine, he saw my mangled body and screamed. He fell to the ground, trembling and shaking, making a puddle beneath him. Dead? How did he die? Simon's death, it's got nothing to do with me, Nina, Nina glared at him, hissing through gritted teeth. Tom, I told you to cancel those fireworks. Why didn't you do it? Shaking, Tom replied, the guys already set everything up. Canceling would have been a hassle. You paid for it, so I let it go because it was just fireworks, Nina. I didn't mean any harm. Simon wouldn't kill himself over fireworks. It doesn't make sense for anyone. Nina's face was ashen, her emotions in turmoil. After a long pause, she said, Tom, if it weren't for the help you've given me, I'd rip your tongue out just for what you said. Get lost. Tom wanted to argue, but with Nina's command, he quickly left. Yet before leaving, his eyes shifted like he thought of something thrilling. Nina had my body taken back, hiring someone to prepare it nicely. As stacks of tissues, stained with blood, piled high, Nina's tears kept falling. A grief so heavy it felt unbearable. Still, she held my hand, her voice hoarse. Simon, don't be afraid. I promised to take you home. We'll be home soon. I made a mistake. I know I messed up. That's why you chose such a drastic way to end your life. I'm so sorry. Inside, I felt nothing. Why torture herself like this? I was gone. Now she could openly be with Tom. Isn't that better? No need to put herself through this. I'm not sure how much time passed, but as dawn broke, Nina drove us to my old home. As soon as she carried me into the bedroom, she realized something with a shocked expression, but it was too late. Once my body was laid on the bed, I noticed that my room was almost unrecognizable. The wallpaper was torn down and replaced with that awful yellow I hated. Even the furniture had changed from my original set. Most insultingly, a cozy photo of Tom and Nina was on the wall. Nina broke down, ripping the photo off and throwing it out, yelling as she did, "Get rid of everything that doesn't belong to Simon. All traces. Gone. Now go." Her emotions swung wildly, leaving everyone in a panic to follow her orders. Nina turned back, gazing at my face with tender devotion, whispering, "Simon, please don't be mad. I'll make it just like it was before." Then tears fell freely. What have I done? I'm losing my mind. She cried harder, hitting her chest in self-punishment. How could I let anyone else stay in your room? Was I thinking at all? I'm a monster. A monster. This whole scene was just her breaking apart. Alone in the room with my spirit observing, unable to respond. After all, she made her choices. Didn't she? Even my things. She packed them and sent me away with her own hands. Eventually, exhausted, she collapsed beside the bed. When she awoke again, it was bright out, around 7 or 8 in the morning. Seeing my stiff body next to her, Nina was overcome with grief yet again, but this time, she didn't wallow. She called her assistant and said, "Today at noon, there will be a wedding for Simon and I. It must be grand and impressive, with everything arranged." She had me dressed in a groom's suit, paid a hefty sum, and the makeup staff, frightened, began their work with tense silence. Nina sat blankly, letting them dress her in a bridal gown. This was our dream wedding, but happening the day after my death. Isn't this a cruel joke? Once we were the love of each other's lives. Tom abruptly barged in, worried at seeing Nina in her bridal dress. Speaking quietly, he pleaded, "Nina, I know this is hard, but marrying a dead man won't do you any good. What will people think? This wedding, I think you should reconsider." Before he could continue, Nina cut him off sharply. "Since when do you get to have a say in mine and Simon's wedding? Tom, you're getting way out of line. Get out." Nina gave the order, and Tom didn't dare say more, quickly leaving. Soon they were at the wedding site. Some guests knew the truth, some didn't, but after a few drinks, everyone was clued in. Some said Nina was acting crazy. Others thought she was just too deeply in love, unable to let go. Some said Nina was obsessed with love, willing to risk everything for a man, no matter how hopeless. The ceremony continued as usual. Nina held a microphone, looking at the coffin with me inside, and said tenderly, "Simon, I promised I'd marry you, that we'd have an unforgettable wedding. I've done it, but it's too late. It's okay though, you'll always be my husband, my love. From today on, I'm your wife, Nina." She spoke with deep emotion, her eyes full of tears, placing the wedding ring on her finger and pressing it to her chest. The atmosphere was strange. It wasn't really lively, nor was it solemn. No one knew what to say. Nina didn't care. She'd completed her solo performance. After the ceremony, a guy named Grant couldn't help but step up to comfort her. "Nina, you know you can't bring people back from the dead. I'm sure Simon, wherever he is, wouldn't want you to suffer for him. After all, when he saved you, he wasn't even afraid to die. Those 3 days and nights when he almost bled out, it was only because he was young that he survived, but alas." As Grant talked, Nina suddenly asked, puzzled, "Grant, what are you saying? Simon saved me? The blood transfusion." Grant frowned, glancing at Nina disdainfully. "Nina, when you got injured on that project site and were rushed to the hospital, you had severe blood loss. Since you have that rare panda blood type, Simon was the only match. How could you forget something like that?" Hearing this, it felt like Nina's world shattered. Her body shook fiercely. Her face turned grim, asking repeatedly, "Wasn't it Tom who saved me? Tom? You mean that guy who rushed over to get close after you woke up? He didn't even have the same blood type. How could he save you? Not the same blood type?" Nina's voice trembled, her whole body shivering uncontrollably. Her voice was filled with desperation and sadness. "So my savior was Simon, it was Simon, right? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Do you know what I've already—" Nina couldn't finish, breaking down into tears. Grant frowned, even more confused. "Nina, this is a big deal. You didn't think to ask someone about it? Did Tom just say he saved you and you believed him?" He looked at Nina, puzzled. Nina, however, was pale, frozen in place, not moving for a long moment. After the wedding, Nina numbly took my body back home. At this point, a timid servant approached with a stack of photos. "Ms. Nina, we found these in Simon's room. You might want to take a look." Taking the photos, Nina's face turned dark as she flipped through them. They were all pictures Tom had sent to me, showing him and Nina together. Nina feeding him grapes by hand, adjusting his collar, the two of them playing chess, drinking tea. Each photo was taken at a very calculated angle, showing strange affection and atmosphere between them. A few seconds later, Nina ripped all the photos into pieces, screaming, "Tom, you bastard! I won't let you get away with this." Then Tom was invited to Nina's place. The house had been decorated like a bridal chamber, colorful and festive. He showed up in a little suit, looking all pleased. Nina, you finally came around. Simon's gone, we need to move on, and I'll take good care of you. Nina watched him quietly, her face calm. Tom continued, Nina, maybe we should bury Simon first, then have our wedding night? Or it might feel odd. Simon would want you to be happy. Nina stayed silent for a while, then began, Tom, you weren't the one who saved me, right? Tom's face changed, but he quickly composed himself, forcing a smile. Nina, of course I saved you. Why are you asking? Nina stared at him intently, one word at a time. You saved me? What's your blood type? Could you have saved me? Even now, you're lying to me. Her eyes blazed as she finished, her voice full of anger. Tom looked terrified. Before he could speak up, Nina said, you deliberately sent those photos to Simon and set off fireworks at midnight. It was all to push him, to make him kill himself. Tom, you're a murderer. Tom instinctively defended himself. No, Nina, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. You don't know? Nina threw the shredded photos in his face. The pieces rained down around him. Tom was stunned, hurriedly trying to explain, I've loved you. That's the only reason. I never meant to harm anyone. If loving the wrong person is a crime, then I'm guilty. Yes, I didn't actually save you, but I just mentioned it and you believed me. Why didn't you ask more questions? You still subconsciously thought it was me, right? He looked at Nina eagerly, hoping for some affirmation. But Nina slapped him hard. You don't deserve it. Tom was dazed by the slap, taking a few seconds to react. It doesn't matter if you admit it or not. We still went on dates all the time, right? If you were so in love with Simon, then how did I fit in? Nina, admit it. You love me. Tom pushed. Nina lost her cool, grabbing an ashtray, ready to hit him. But at the last second, she dropped the ashtray to the ground, sitting down in defeat. Tom inched closer, trying to say more. But Nina just said 2 words toward the door. Feed him. Within 30 seconds, 2 large men came in, covering Tom's mouth and dragging him away. Nina just sat on the floor the whole time, mumbling to herself. Simon, I've avenged you, Simon. Does this mean you'll forgive me? As a bystander, now just a wandering spirit, I'm left feeling helpless. I don't hate her, so there's no talk of forgiveness. It's all her own choice. It's her life's lesson. In less than half an hour, the bodyguard came in and reported that they'd dealt with Tom. The body was fed to the dogs. Nina nodded slightly. I was stunned. I never thought she was serious when she said that earlier. Nina, who always seemed like a calculating heiress, didn't even blink when she had Tom. Someone she once cherished? Killed? She really went this far for me? I gotta admit, I'm shocked. If she loved me, why Tom? But if she didn't, why go crazy? I don't get it. But maybe I never need to understand. The next moment, a voice rang in my head. Host, prepare to exit the world. 3, 2, 1. After opening my eyes again, I found myself in a college lecture hall. My brain buzzed. The system seemed kinda glitchy, crackling, and asking me, do you want to delete the last strategy memories? Delete, I replied quickly. Let the past be the past. A few seconds later, my head spun, like something was yanked from my heart. Then I realized my new target was a senior in the class. She was stunning, smart, and super polite. I started with the usual, asking her for help with homework, then dinner invites and little surprises. We got closer over time. But every time I asked the system about her affection level, it stayed silent. Days went by, and I almost thought the system ghosted me. Threw myself completely into this relationship. One day, as the senior and I were outside the dorm, whispering before I confessed, I heard the faint buzz again. Sunny, will you be my girlfriend? Sure. You said yes? Yeah, I did. Is that surprising? No, I replied, scratching my head, blushing. That's when the system's signal came back, but the voice was different. Host, a new system has been assigned. Your current affection level is 99%. The voice sounded strangely familiar. I blurted out, new system, what's your name? After a long pause, it softly answered, Nina.